My name wasn't even spelled right on the envelope. It lay there on the hallway console like a forgotten bill. White, slightly bent at the corners, stamped with one of those metallic gold "thank you" stickers that had peeled halfway off. The handwriting was cursive, loopy, performative. To Marjorie Marge, it read, the parentheses cutting sharper than any knife. Nobody had called me Marge in years. Not since before my husband passed. Not since I moved out of the home where my life used to happen and into a guest bedroom that was now apparently being downgraded to a glorified alcove. I opened the envelope with the care one might use to disarm a bomb. It contained a folded note card featuring a watercolor tree on the front. Fitting, I suppose, considering I'd once planted the cherry blossom out front with my own two hands. Inside was a single sentence. Thank you for your help during this transition. We'll make you as comfortable as possible. Janelle and Ryan. Comfortable. The word hung in the air like a lie dipped in lavender oil. Janelle stood in the foyer beside my son Ryan, her hands clasped in front of her yoga top like she was hosting a silent auction. Ryan held a branded coffee cup, some expensive roast from the boutique cafe downtown, and wouldn't quite meet my eye. Janelle gestured toward the left side of the house with a practiced grace. We've set you up in the den. It's cozy. Lots of natural light. The den. Not a guest room. Not the upstairs suite I used to sleep in during the holidays. Not even the home office with a door. No, the den. A former reading nook with no privacy, no wall insulation, and a fold-out couch that looked like it had been picked more for its aesthetics than its comfort. The velvet was burgundy, with brass legs. A decorative throw lay folded on top, deep red with gold snowflakes. Out of season. Still tagged. It's from Crate and Barrel's holiday collection, Janelle added, as if that fact might somehow soften the insult. Brand new. I hadn't even opened it yet. As if I should be grateful for the privilege. She stepped forward and fluffed one of the throw pillows, then motioned toward a small wire basket in the corner. We also set aside some of the kids' coloring books and puzzles in case you want something to do. And the guest bathroom's just past the kitchen. It has a little tote with your things. Your things, not your space. I looked around. The den backed up against the kitchen island. No doors, no curtains. Just a sliver of wall with a floating shelf holding faux plants and a scented candle that read, Serenity Now. Ryan cleared his throat. It's just for a while, Mom. The condo deal will go through any day now, and once the paperwork's filed. He paused, as if trying to remember the script. You'll have a nice little place of your own. With less maintenance, you know? The condo. The mythical unit they'd helped me find 6 months ago. The one they swore would be a smart move, selling my family home to invest in their forever property. The one I put $160,000 into so they could close the deal on this 5-bedroom suburban cathedral with granite countertops, cathedral ceilings, and a hot tub they swore they'd use for family bonding. Now here I was, downgraded to a corner couch and a scented throw. I rolled my suitcase beside the armrest, careful not to scuff the polished concrete floors. My money had paid for those, too. The house had been staged like a magazine spread. Not a single toy out of place. Not a book spine cracked. Janelle followed me like a real estate agent. It's temporary, she repeated, then added with a flash of performative sincerity. We're just so grateful you're here. With the twin schedule and my mom flying in, it's been a lot. I blinked. Your mom's here? As if on cue, a voice floated down from the staircase. Did someone say my name? Delilah. Janelle's mother. Floaty, floral, and impossibly loud. She sauntered down in a silk robe and slippers, her hair wrapped in a towel, like a queen on spa day. I recognized the robe. It was a gift I'd given Ryan and Janelle for their 5th anniversary. Monogrammed initials now worn by someone who never remembered my birthday. Oh, Marjorie, she chirped, as if we were old friends. The couch is adorable. I napped on it the other day, and it's just divine. Of course she did. The master suite was hers now, then. The one with the fireplace and the bay window, I helped pick out. The one I helped pay for. I sat down on the couch, the new throw still clutched in my lap, like an insult too polite to name. It squeaked. Not like furniture. like betrayal. Dinner's at 6, Janelle said with a smile. We're doing vegan enchiladas. Hope that's okay. Then she turned and walked away, the clack of her heels echoing through a house I could barely recognize anymore. That night, as I lay under the snowflake throw, the smell of her diffuser wafting down from upstairs, bergamot and condescension, I opened my phone. Instagram. Of course. A new post. Janelle, Delilah, and the twins, all in the matching robes I had once wrapped in tissue paper and ribbon. The caption read, 3 generations under one roof. Hashtag gratitude, hashtag family is everything. I didn't react, didn't zoom in, didn't cry. Instead, I reached for the manila folder I'd quietly placed inside my overnight bag. Inside, a copy of the deed. Signed, notarized, and legally binding. Ryan and I, joint owners. He held 52%. I held 48%. Delilah? Not even a footnote. I slid the folder out and opened it carefully, smoothing the papers with deliberate precision. Then I pulled a sticky note from the small pad I kept tucked inside my wallet. I wrote 4 words. Check Clause 5B. Occupancy rights. And stuck it to the inner flap. I lay back down and pulled the throw up to my chin. My fingers grazed the tag, still attached. $39.99. Reduced to clear. I smiled, just barely. They gave me a couch. I gave them co-ownership. Let's see who reads the fine print first. Before we continue, take a moment to let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to more powerful stories like this one. The next morning, the house smelled like oatmeal and resentment. From my spot on the pull-out couch, I heard Delilah's voice drifting down from the kitchen, cheerful, syrupy, far too loud for someone who hadn't paid a cent toward this square footage. Organic oats, steel cut, with chia and flax. We're doing gut health in this house, she trilled. The twins giggled in response, bowls clinking. Janelle chimed in, You're spoiling us, Mom. I stayed still under the fleece throw, eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan. 5 blades. Matte black. I'd picked it. I'd watched the installer struggle to get the wiring right. Now, it spun above me like it was trying to blow away the memory of that day. Ryan entered the room mid-step, holding his tablet and a half-sipped protein shake. Oh, hey, Mom. You sleep okay? I sat up slowly, folding the throw like it was a hotel towel. Yes. The couch is decorative. He laughed, unsure if I meant it as a compliment. We'll get the mattress pad delivered this week. Forgot it was still in storage. Of course they forgot. Just like they forgot I'm allergic to lavender, something Delilah's diffuser was belching into every vent. He smiled like we were having a normal mother-son moment. Janelle and I were talking last night. There's an open house for a condo near Brighton Park. Smaller than we'd hoped, but move-in ready. I tilted my head. I thought the condo paperwork was being finalized. His eyes flickered. That fell through. Financing complications. My financing complications, you mean? He cleared his throat. Anyway, we'll find something. This setup is just for now. He didn't notice the manila folder beneath the end table. I'd slid it there before bed. Clause 5B. Occupancy rights. A little line most people gloss over. But not me. I'd had Gerald draft that clause personally when Ryan asked for my help 5 years ago. I'd said, if I'm putting in almost half, I want something in writing. Ryan had agreed. Janelle had smiled too quickly. Now that line was the thin thread keeping me tethered to something more than this couch. Later that afternoon, I retreated to the only private space I had, the powder room off the kitchen. Small, quiet, clean. It smelled like eucalyptus Delilah again, but I turned on the little fan to muffle it. I sat on the closed toilet lid, folder in my lap, and opened my phone. Gerald Wickham, ESQ. Saved under Plan B. I texted him 3 simple words. Still have it. His reply came within 2 minutes. Of course. Want to go over it? I typed back. Not yet. Just checking. Then I reopened the deed copy in my folder and traced my finger along the line that mattered. Each party listed as co-owner maintains full occupancy rights within reason and may retain residence without condition or imposed relocation unless mutually agreed upon in writing. I'd insisted on that clause when Gerald looked surprised I wanted it. "My son is good," I had said back then. "But his wife lives on Instagram and half-truths." Gerald had raised an eyebrow and drafted it anyway. Now, sitting there with my name in legal ink, I felt less like a guest and more like a ghost who remembered everything. That evening, the family gathered for dinner. Not around the table, of course. That was for special guests, according to Janelle. Instead, plates were balanced on knees and set along the kitchen island. Delilah got the bar stool. I got a folding chair pulled in from the garage, still speckled with old paint from Ryan's college days. Ryan sat beside me, scrolling his phone between bites. The twins bickered over who got the larger carrot stick. Janelle turned to me, with a smile too smooth. "So, we were thinking," she began. "Once the condo thing is done, we'll host a little moving on brunch for you. A celebration." "A celebration?" I nearly choked on my lentils. She didn't notice. "Just close friends, maybe some neighbors. A little mimosa send-off." I set my fork down. "How thoughtful," I said calmly. "Will there be gift bags?" Ryan chuckled, but his shoulders stiffened. He was beginning to see it. Just a little. That night, long after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on the couch again, my couch, apparently, and opened my laptop. I pulled up the property records. The county assessor's office had a new interface, but I found the parcel number quickly. I'd saved it in an old email, right next to my husband's will and the scanned image of the cherry tree we planted in '89. 1430 Pinecrest Circle. Current owners: Ryan A. Miller, Marjorie D. Miller. Ownership split: 52%/48%. No lien. No transfer. No update. No mention of Janelle. No mention of Delilah. I stared at the screen for a long time, then opened a new document and typed the following. To Gerald Whitcomb, ESQ. Subject: Initiate Clause 5B, Step 1. Please draft a formal letter to remind the other co-owner of occupancy terms and rights per agreement dated March 14, 2018. Include language regarding boundaries, reasserting my legal right to permanent co-residence until I choose to sell or vacate. Also, please begin preparing documents for potential restructuring of co-ownership, option for buyout or court-mandated partition, depending on response. Let's keep it civil. Warmly, Marjorie D. Miller. I didn't send it yet, but I saved it. Drafts folder. Top of the queue. As I turned off the laptop, the house around me creaked softly, walls expanding in the cool night air, pipes humming through the floorboards. Someone's diffuser still ticking upstairs. I reached for the throw blanket, still folded beside me. The price tag had curled a little from use. The gold snowflakes had started to pill. I didn't pull it over me. Instead, I draped it over the back of the couch and turned out the light. I wasn't cold. I was calculating. The next morning, a tiny amber glass jar appeared on the coffee table. Candle. Scented. Labeled Peaceful Harvest. I didn't light it. Not because I disliked candles, but because this one came with no note, just the implication that I was unrestful. That the den, my new suite, required ambience management. That perhaps if the lavender didn't calm me, this blend of clove and cedarwood might. I left it untouched. Just like the throw. Just like the boundaries they pretended I didn't have. Upstairs, the blender roared, another smoothie with spirulina and ego. Delilah was humming again. Off-key. Loud. Something about a golden hour and gratitude. I knew the routine by now. It always ended in a group selfie on the porch. I stayed in the den, folding my scarf with slow deliberation. Then I reached for the manila folder beneath the side table. The sticky note still hung where I'd left it. Clause 5B. Occupancy rights. The only thing louder than the blender that morning was the knock at the door. 3 quick taps. Then a pause. Then one more, like a PS on a passive-aggressive memo. I opened it to find Helen, the next-door neighbor, holding a Tupperware dish and a knitted shawl. She looked like she'd aged 10 years since I last saw her. "Oh, Marjorie, she said with that soft tone women reserve for funerals and casseroles. "I heard you were back." Back. Like I'd failed rehab.
Or escape something.
In a way, I had. She stepped inside before I could stop her and took in the den with a single, sympathetic glance. "They've got you here?" "I requested it." I lied. Helen didn't believe me, but she nodded like we were both pretending the same fairy tale. She handed me the dish squash casserole, still warm, and the shawl. Hand-knit, cream-colored, soft. "I just thought," she said, "you might need something that actually feels like it came with care."
I smiled then. Genuinely.
We sat for 20 minutes. Didn't talk about the obvious. Just taxes. Tulip bulbs. Helen's son, who had moved back home after a divorce, and takes up the entire garage with his midlife crisis motorcycle. When she stood to leave, she paused in the hallway. Her gaze flicked to the stairwell, then back to me. "You were always the one who made this house a home," she said quietly. Funny how quickly people forget who nailed the foundation. I didn't respond, just walked her out and waved until she was out of sight. Then I went upstairs.
Not with a tantrum.
Not with confrontation. With purpose. Delilah's voice was floating from the master suite, talking on speakerphone to someone, probably her esthetician or personal astrologer, about retinol, energy alignment, or meal kits. I didn't knock. I didn't step in. I stood just outside the door and took one photo. The hallway.
The door.
The edge of the master suite that wasn't hers. Then I turned and walked into the guest bathroom, the only room they hadn't yet curated. My name was still taped to a wicker basket under the sink. A few of my toiletries were inside: travel-sized toothpaste, my arthritis balm, a hairbrush I'd used since before Ryan could spell. I took another photo. That afternoon, I printed both images at the local pharmacy kiosk.
I didn't need them yet.
But I would. That evening, I waited until they all left for a neighborhood mixer. Delilah in a sequined tunic, Janelle in trendy wide-leg pants, Ryan carrying a tray of roasted fig bites no one asked for. Once the house was silent, I went to work. I turned the thermostat down 2 degrees. I straightened the crooked painting in the foyer. I placed a post-it on the fridge that read, "Pantry labels don't override ownership." And then I opened my laptop. Gerald's number blinked in the upper right corner of my screen. I clicked. He picked up on the second ring. "Marjorie. Good timing. I just finished reviewing your clause request." I didn't waste breath on pleasantries. "What's our next move?" "You want the blunt version?" "Yes. You're well within your rights to issue a formal notice clarifying your occupancy rights. And if you so choose, pursue a partition or forced buyout if cohabitation becomes untenable." "And do we have proof it's untenable?" "More than enough," he said. "I've read the notes you sent. The room assignments. The messages. The social media post." He paused. "I also saw the candle." I blinked. "What candle?" He chuckled faintly. "The one in the photo. On the coffee table. Scented passive aggression. That one." I laughed, surprising myself. Then I said, "Let's start soft. Just a letter. A line in the sand." "Copy," Gerald replied. "I'll draft something tonight. Want them served or emailed?" "Let's hand-deliver it," I said. I'd like to watch Janelle smile through it. Civil but firm? Like a ceasefire at a baby shower. When we hung up, I sat quietly in the dark for a long while. The snowflake throw was still draped over the couch. I picked it up and tossed it gently into the laundry hamper. Let it tumble with the rest of the laundry. Let the gold stitching fade. I'd spent weeks trying to shrink myself to fit inside their idea of gratitude. Now they could stretch to meet mine. The letter arrived the next morning. Not by mail, not slipped under the door, not emailed with a cold subject line. It was delivered the old-fashioned way. By hand. I placed the ivory envelope gently on the kitchen island between Janelle and her protein smoothie. She barely looked up from her phone. "What's this?" she asked, her thumbs still scrolling. I pulled out a chair and sat across from her, folding my hands. "A formal clarification of my legal occupancy rights," I said calmly, "and an outline of expectations moving forward." Janelle's head lifted, slowly, like it was rising out of water. "Excuse me?" I gestured toward the envelope. "It's all in there. Kindly drafted by my attorney. You'll find it straightforward." She picked it up and peeled it open like it might bite. Her eyes moved across the page with mechanical precision at first, then faster. A twitch at the corner of her mouth. A tightening of her grip. "What is this?" she repeated, but this time the words came sharper. "You're setting rules?" "No," I said. "The rules already existed. I'm enforcing them." Ryan walked in just as the words landed, wiping sleep from his eyes, still in his flannel pajama pants. "What's going on?" he asked, reaching for the coffee pot. Janelle handed him the letter. "Your mom is lawyering up." He skimmed it with a frown, reading too fast. His brows furrowed in that telltale way I remembered from middle school, when he was caught cheating off a neighbor's spelling test and tried to argue licorice had a silent G. "She's just confirming she has the right to live here?" he asked aloud, as if trying to decipher the meaning for himself. I nodded. "That's correct." "But you live here," he said, confused. "No," I corrected gently. "I've been allowed to stay. There's a difference." Janelle leaned forward, arms crossed over her athletic tank. "This is ridiculous. We've done everything we can to accommodate you." I smiled. "You gave me a couch. I gave you $160,000. I think we're operating on different definitions of accommodation." Ryan rubbed his temples. "Mom, this isn't the time for legal drama." I tilted my head. "Ryan, I want peace. That letter is peace. It simply establishes that I am not a guest. Not temporary. Not optional." He looked down at the letter again, and this time, he didn't argue. But Janelle wasn't done. "Okay, fine," she snapped. "You want official roles?"
Fine.
"But that means you pull your weight. You pay utilities. Groceries. You can't just squat here and bark orders." I smiled politely, happy to contribute, once the expense ledger reflects my ownership share. She blinked. "Excuse me? You don't want me treated like a guest? Excellent. Then I'll have access to the household financial records, mortgage payments, utilities, maintenance funds, so I can contribute my 48% accordingly." Ryan's mouth parted slightly. "That's not how we've been doing it." "Then maybe," I said, rising slowly from the chair, "you've been doing it wrong." I didn't wait for their reaction. I walked to the den, grabbed my scarf and purse, and stepped outside into the cold morning air. It smelled like damp leaves and possibility. I went straight to Gerald's office, where the receptionist already had a coffee waiting for me. 2 sugars, no cream. I was beginning to like how this chapter of my life tasted. Inside his office, Gerald greeted me with a nod and slid a printed version of the letter across the desk. "You held back," I noted, scanning the page. "I kept it measured," he replied. "But effective. Sometimes all it takes is reminding people the law doesn't favor entitlement." I glanced at the final paragraph. "In the absence of mutual written consent to change cohabitation terms, Ms. Marjorie Miller maintains full legal right to residence in the home located at 1430 Pinecrest Circle. Any attempts to displace, marginalize, or restrict her use of shared space will be interpreted as a violation of co-owner rights and met with appropriate legal response. This next part," Gerald continued, "is up to you. I've begun outlining the options: formal partition of the property, request for buyout, or continuation of shared living with binding conditions." I didn't hesitate. "Let's start exploring partition." Gerald looked surprised, but only slightly. "Ryan will likely panic when he sees it," he warned. "Good," I said. Panic shakes the mask loose. That afternoon, I returned home with the kind of calm that made Janelle uncomfortable. I placed my purse on the side table, unwrapped my scarf, and made tea. Earl Grey. Loose leaf. None of Delilah's detox blends. The house was quiet. I liked it that way. Until it wasn't. At 4:36 p.m., I heard the unmistakable slam of a door upstairs, followed by the heavy heel clicking of Delilah's entrance. She stormed into the kitchen like she was late for a villain audition. "I hear there was a letter." "Correct," I said, pouring hot water over my tea bag. Setting rules? For us? In our own house. I turned slowly to face her. This is not just your house. Or theirs. Or mine. It's a shared asset. With shared terms. Your comfort doesn't supersede the deed. Delilah blinked, thrown by the precision. Then she scoffed. This is about the master suite, isn't it? You're bitter. You wanted it for yourself. I took a long sip of tea. Let the steam rise. No, I said softly. This isn't about a room. It's about being erased.
Silently. Daily.
With smiles and thank you notes and couches that squeak when you cry on them. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I stepped forward, voice still calm. Delilah, you may think you've won something. A space.
A favor.
A temporary upper hand. But the difference between a favor and a fact is paperwork. And mine is notarized. She blinked again, her voice faltering for the first time. You can't just start running this place like you're in charge. I turned away, placing my cup in the sink. Then maybe next time, don't invite a co-owner to sleep beside the thermostat. As I walked away, I could feel her stare burning into my back. But she didn't follow. And she didn't speak. That night, I moved the candle off the coffee table and placed it in the hallway bathroom, where even uninvited things go to be forgotten. Then I opened my notebook and titled a new page. Boundary Enforcement Log, Day 1. Letter delivered, received, and read. No apology issued. Resistance began. Clarity held. I underlined that last one twice. Because sometimes peace isn't soft. Sometimes it's legal. The air changed by morning. Not colder, just tighter. Like the walls had learned how to hold their breath. Janelle didn't speak to me when I walked into the kitchen. She sliced bananas in silence, each cut crisp and deliberate, like it was the fruit's fault. Delilah was absent. Her mug, however, was not. It sat at her usual place on the counter, full to the brim with steaming herbal tea and smugness. Ryan was pretending to read something on his phone. He hadn't looked me in the eye since the letter. Good. That meant it landed. I poured myself coffee and stirred in a splash of oat milk, the expensive kind they always kept hidden behind 3 different jars of chia pudding. No one said a word. Until Janelle finally did. So, what happens now? Her voice was light. Too light. The kind of tone women use when they're trying to control a narrative that's already slipping through their fingers. I sat down across from her at the island and sipped my coffee. What happens now, I echoed, is structure. She raised an eyebrow. Structure, I repeated. Shared space. Shared responsibilities. Shared decision-making. I've already requested financial documents through Gerald. Once we assess the property's expenses, I'll contribute my fair share, 48%, and expect 48% of decisions. Ryan choked on his banana slice. You want input on what? The grocery list?
Thermostat.
No, I said, pulling out my notebook. I want input on things that affect the shared environment. Renovations. Budgeting. Guest stays. Room usage. Janelle crossed her arms. That's not how families work. No, I agreed. That's how business partnerships work. Which is what this became the moment I wasn't offered a chair at the table I helped pay for. Silence. Delilah finally appeared in the doorway. Fully dressed at 8 a.m. in a linen tunic and pearls. She looked like she was about to host a cooking segment on public television. I heard voices, she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Just wanted to say I'll be hosting my book club here tonight. Hope that's okay. I stared at her. Which room? I asked. The living room, she replied, blinking innocently. It has the best lighting. No, I said simply. It doesn't. Delilah tilted her head. Excuse me? I stood and folded my napkin. The living room is a shared space. As a co-owner, I'm exercising my right to restrict group gatherings without prior approval. She actually laughed. You're joking. I turned to Ryan. Is she joking? I asked him. His mouth opened, then closed. Janelle stepped in. You can't micromanage the house. I can co-manage it, I replied. Delilah sniffed. Well, then where do you suggest I host it? The patio, I said. Plenty of natural light. It's February.
Bring a shawl, I said.
You're good at those. She gasped, as if insult hadn't been invented before I used it on her. I left the kitchen then, not waiting for consensus. Consensus had been a luxury I wasn't invited to enjoy. Later that morning, Gerald emailed a document packet. I printed everything on thick cream paper and highlighted 3 sections. One for each of them. At lunch, I set them out on the dining table like a place setting. Ryan approached first, still in his business casual Zoom shirt, reading upside down. "What's this?" "Meeting agenda," I replied. "For tonight. 7 p.m. shared residency restructuring. Attendance mandatory." Janelle walked in just in time to hear that. She laughed under her breath and kept walking. But she didn't throw it away. That evening I arrived first. The dining table had never looked so democratic. No head of the table. Just 4 chairs. 4 copies of the agenda. 4 mugs of tea, unlabeled. I wanted everyone to taste ambiguity. Delilah showed up late. Janelle showed up tense. Ryan showed up blinking like he'd walked into a performance review at his own kitchen island. I called the meeting to order with a single tap of my spoon against my mug. "Let's begin," I said. No one argued. Item 1. Chore rotation. I passed around a color-coded calendar. Delilah immediately scoffed. "I don't do floors."
"Then you'll do laundry," I said.
Janelle raised a hand. "Why are we doing this?" "Because co-owners don't get maid service," I said. Ryan actually winced. Item 2. Financial transparency. I slid a spreadsheet forward. "These are the projected monthly costs. I'll pay my 48%. I expect the same respect in decision-making." Janelle's jaw clenched. "This is absurd."
"This is math," I said.
Item 3. Guest usage. Delilah leaned forward. "Here we go." I didn't rise to her bait. "Any guest staying more than 48 hours must be agreed upon by all co-residents," I said calmly. "Otherwise, they are considered unauthorized occupants." Janelle finally exploded. "This is our home. Our kids' home. You can't just waltz in and dictate the rules like some corporate landlord." I met her eyes without blinking. "I'm not dictating. I'm documenting." Ryan stood suddenly. Okay. Let's just cool down. We'll read through this and circle back." "Within 48 hours, I said. He nodded, sat back down. No one spoke again for the rest of the meeting. When it ended, they left the table like people exiting a courtroom.
Quiet. Confused.
Slightly defeated. That night, I went to the den, pulled out my notebook, and started a new page. Meeting log. Day 1. Attendance, 100%. Resistance, medium. Implementation, pending. Momentum, gained. At the bottom, I wrote 2 words in all caps. No retreat. Then I turned off the lamp. Let the rest of them fumble in the dark. 3 days after the meeting, things got quiet. Not peaceful, quiet. A kind of performative calm, where everyone tiptoed around each other like overpolished diplomats. Passive aggression hung thicker than Delilah's diffuser, and that thing was pumping eucalyptus into every vent like it was oxygen. The shared calendar I'd printed was taped to the fridge now, but someone, probably Janelle, had taken it upon herself to annotate it with pastel gel pens and tiny hearts. She'd also added a note in lowercase script next to laundry rotation. "Delilah prefers unscented detergent. Please be mindful. I used the lavender kind."
Twice.
The socks came out smelling like resolve. Ryan, for his part, had started retreating into the basement office more often. I'd hear the muffled sound of keyboards, corporate jargon, the occasional "we'll circle back on that." He was circling all right, just not back to me. And then came Saturday. Janelle called a family meeting. No email, no printed agenda, just a group text and a tray of banana muffins as bait. We gathered in the kitchen, all 4 of us, me, Ryan, Janelle, and Delilah, standing in a house that somehow felt both spacious and suffocating. Janelle smiled, tight and toothy. "So, we've been thinking, maybe the problem here is space." Delilah jumped in. far too cheerfully. Exactly. The house is just not flowing right. So we thought, reimagining the layout. Ryan nodded like he had been coached within an inch of his life. We thought we could move the den setup upstairs. The loft has better light. And then maybe the den could become like a home yoga zone or something more shared. I blinked. You want me to move again? No, Janelle said. Not move. Just transition. Transition, I repeated, to the upstairs loft. The open-air one with no doors, no sound barrier, and a direct line of sight to the twins' playroom. Delilah interjected. We'd put up a privacy screen. Like a hospital curtain? I asked. Ryan stepped in. It's just an idea. We're trying to create balance. Balance, I repeated, drawing the word out like it tasted funny. I looked at the three of them, lined up like a jury panel in matching neutrals. Then I smiled. Okay, I said. Let's reimagine the layout. Janelle lit up. Great. We knew you'd see the big picture. Let's start, I cut in, with the master bedroom. Silence. Since we're being equitable, I said, Delilah can move into the loft. I'll take the master suite for 6 months. Then we rotate. Delilah's jaw fell so far it almost dislocated. Excuse me? I kept my tone calm. 6 months on, 6 months off. We alternate. Shared property, shared privilege. Janelle blinked rapidly, caught between outrage and trying to appear fair. I mean, we weren't really thinking of. You were thinking of shifting me, I said. Not yourselves. That's not reimagining. That's redecorating the pecking order. Ryan scratched his head. Let's not get hostile. This isn't hostility, I said. This is symmetry. Then I walked out of the room and up the stairs, straight to the master bedroom. The door was ajar. I pushed it open gently. There it was, the fireplace I helped select. The 4-poster bed with goose-down pillows. The built-in bookshelf still stocked with Delilah's memoirs and self-help titles she hadn't read past the acknowledgments. I took a long breath. Then I walked into the ensuite bathroom and turned on the shower. Just for a minute. Just to hear it roar. Downstairs, chaos bloomed. I heard Delilah's voice rising in protest. I heard Janelle's sugar-slick tone sharpen. Ryan's voice, lowest of the three, muttered something about boundaries and overcorrections. I dried my hands on the monogrammed towel still hanging by the sink.
DH.
For Delilah Hargrove. I folded it neatly and placed it on the counter. Then I went back to the den, opened my notebook, and logged the event. Resident requested transition. Outcome. Counteroffer presented. Reaction. Emotional disruption. Power dynamic shifted. That evening, Delilah posted a quote on Instagram. Some people thrive on conflict. Real queens rise above it. I screenshot it and saved it under a folder titled Deflection Theater. The next day, I acted. While they bickered in the backyard over mulch and where to put the new potted lemon tree Delilah insisted was essential, I made a phone call. Hi, yes, I told the property consultant. I'd like to schedule a home survey. Specifically, to explore zoning compliance for a duplex-style split. The woman on the phone hesitated. You want to partition the house? Yes, I said. Hypothetically. For now. Is there a reason? I looked out the window at Delilah sipping kombucha in my patio chair. Let's call it a reimagining. That afternoon, I drafted an email to Gerald. Please begin outlining legal feasibility for property split. I'd like to understand options for severing shared living spaces without selling my stake. No rush. Just collecting receipts. Then I closed my laptop and sat on the couch. My couch. Still lumpy. Still too firm. Still mine for now. A knock came on the wall behind me, 3 soft taps. Then Ryan's voice. Hey mom, got a minute? I waited. 10 seconds. 15. Then said, Sure. Come in. He opened the pocket door halfway, leaned against the frame. I know things have been tense, he said. But I was wondering if we could talk, just you and me. No lawyers. No agendas. I nodded slowly. Okay. He came in, hands in his pockets, glancing around like the room had secrets it hadn't told him. I miss how things used to be, he said, when it wasn't all this. You mean before I asked to be treated like I mattered? He exhaled. I don't know how to fix it.
You don't have to fix it, I said.
You just have to stop pretending it was never broken. He looked down, then back up. Are you serious about the zoning thing? I paused, then smiled faintly. I wouldn't call yet, but I'd keep the number. It began with a label, a simple white sticker stuck to the side of the pantry door at eye level. I hadn't put it there. The font was delicate, the corners rounded, Janelle style. Family areas only, please respect shared space. I stared at it for a long moment. The pantry. The pantry I'd organized 3 times over the years. Once when they moved in, once when the twins were toddlers, and once when Janelle tried to alphabetize spices by vibe. I had wiped every shelf, added a tiered riser for canned goods, and even ordered custom jars with chalkboard labels. Now it was a family area. And I was what? A tenant? I peeled the sticker off in one clean stroke. No rush. No noise. Then I replaced it with a new one I'd printed that morning. Co-owner access area. Property clause 5 be compliant. I used a label maker. Bold font. Centered text. Laminated, even. Let them chew on that with their organic granola. That same afternoon, I went into town. I visited the local title office, not for anything urgent, just to request an official certified copy of the deed. I wanted a fresh one, not a photocopy, not a printout. The clerk raised her eyebrows as she slid the form across the counter. Everything okay at the property? Oh yes, I smiled. Just updating my documentation. Housekeeping, really. Back at home, Janelle was filming a story in the backyard, one of her wellness reels, with soft piano music and avocado toast on a white plate. I stood just behind the kitchen window and watched her hold the camera out, swaying like a willow tree with a ring light. Welcome to our sanctuary, she said softly. Built on love. Held together by gratitude. I snorted and walked away before I could gag on the hashtags. Delilah was perched in the sunroom, flipping through a home decor catalog and marking pages like she was redecorating Versailles. Her tone was cheerful when she spoke, but her words snapped like brittle branches. I'm thinking sheer drapes for spring. More light, less density. This place needs to breathe. I paused. Density's not the issue, I said. She looked up. Excuse me? I smiled. The house is breathing fine. It's the people who aren't. That evening I hosted my own meeting. Not in the dining room. Not with muffins. I sent a printed memo to their doors. Household governance review. 7 p.m. Kitchen table. Attendance requested. I used the word requested because legally, I couldn't demand it yet. They showed up anyway. Ryan wore an old college hoodie like he was trying to disappear inside it. Janelle looked like she'd come from a Pilates class she didn't enjoy. Delilah carried a wine glass already half full. I handed each of them a folder. Inside, 3 pages. Page 1. Summary of ownership terms. Clear, bulleted. My 48%. Ryan's 52%. No mention of Janelle. No legal authority granted to Delilah. Page 2. Revised household agreements. No changes to shared space without co-owner approval. All long-term guest stays require 2 halves owner sign-off. Room assignments subject to equitable rotation unless otherwise agreed in writing. Expense transparency mandatory. Full household budget due by end of month. Page 3. Legal memo. Signed by Gerald. Notarized. Confirming my right to enforce clause-based protections and a preliminary outline of petition protocol, should I choose to file. Janelle was the first to speak. You're weaponizing paperwork. No, I said. I'm defending peace with documentation. Delilah rolled her eyes. You're creating an environment of tension. I walked into an environment of hierarchy, I replied. Tension was already living here rent-free. Ryan stayed quiet, thumbing the edge of his folder. You can't live like this forever, Janelle said, voice thin. It's not sustainable. You're right, I nodded. Which is why I'm considering restructuring. Delilah's wine glass clinked as she set it down. What does that mean? It means, I said slowly, I may file for a formal partition of the property. Legally separate the house into 2 dwellings. Janelle laughed once.
Dry.
That's ridiculous. Not according to zoning, I said. I already checked. Gerald's compiling the filing documents now. Ryan finally looked up. Wait, so you'd what? Cut the house in half? No, I said. But I'd designate the guest suite, sunroom, and a portion of the kitchen for exclusive use. Install a private entrance. Soundproof walls. You'd keep the upstairs and garage. We'd divide the patio. Janelle's jaw dropped. You can't be serious. I am, I said. And I'm not asking for your permission. Delilah looked stunned. For the first time in weeks, she had no comeback. That night, I sat in the den and flipped open my notebook again. Partition preparation log, day 1. Deed certified. Legal summary delivered. Resistance met. Fear registered. Then I did something unexpected. I went online and began drafting a rental listing. I wasn't publishing it yet. Just preparing. Title: Private garden level suite in historic home. Separate entrance. Shared grounds. Description: Sunlit 1-bedroom with access to partial kitchen, private bath, and tranquil garden space. Perfect for travel nurses, visiting professionals, or those needing a peaceful retreat. Under amenities, I ticked
Wi-Fi.
washer/dryer access. Co-owner approval required for additional occupants. I added a note at the bottom. Available pending legal approval. Listing held in reserve. Then I clicked Save as Draft. The next morning, I printed the draft and placed it in a folder marked Alternate Revenue Stream. Let them stew. Let them wonder. Because sometimes you don't need to pull the trigger. You just need to let them hear the click. It was only a matter of time before something gave out. Fitting, really, that it was the thermostat. The war over temperature had become its own silent battle in the house. Delilah preferred it at 74, claiming women of refinement chill more easily. Janelle set it to 72 when she was in a good mood, 70 when she was pretending not to be irritated. I kept bumping it back down to 68. Not out of spite. Out of principle. Comfort, I'd learned, doesn't come from heat. It comes from control. That morning, the digital display blinked and went dark. Ryan emerged from the basement office in socks and mild panic. Did someone mess with the settings? Delilah stood near the hallway vent, fanning herself dramatically. It's stuck. I'm roasting. My pores are screaming. Janelle was already on the phone with a technician, speaking in clipped tones. Yes, it's urgent. My mother's sensitive to temperature flux. No, she can't wait until Tuesday. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of cold water. Technician's going to need access to the utility room, Janelle said, not looking at me. Just so you know. I assumed so, I replied. I gave them the code yesterday. She blinked. You called someone too? Of course, I said. It's a shared property. I contacted Gerald for a list of licensed contractors. We're entitled to emergency repairs under co-ownership. Ryan looked between us like a man watching 2 chess masters move toward checkmate in real time. The technician arrived by noon. Unassuming. Early 30s. Wore boot covers. I liked him immediately. This panel's ancient, he muttered, kneeling by the baseboard. No wonder it's giving out. Wiring's delicate. Who installed this? Delilah's contractor, Janelle said, not quite meeting my eyes. He nodded. We'll need to replace the core board. Could take a few hours. I smiled. We'll manage. Should I install a programmable thermostat while I'm at it? Smart app, energy saver, multi-user control. I looked at Janelle.
She didn't speak.
I turned back to him.
Yes.
But password protected, with co-owner access only. The moment he left to get his tools, Janelle snapped. You are not locking us out of the thermostat.
I'm not, I said.
I'm setting co-ownership credentials. 2 votes to change temperature settings. Majority rule. This is a house, not Congress, she hissed. I shrugged. Then stop running it like a monarchy. She stormed out. Delilah followed, muttering something about calling her attorney friend who specialized in elder mediation. I almost laughed. Instead, I opened the fridge, grabbed my lemon yogurt, and sat in my usual chair at the breakfast bar, the one that didn't wobble. Ryan stayed behind, his expression unreadable. I let the silence stretch. Then he spoke. "You're really going through with this, aren't you?" I looked up. "The petition?" He nodded. "I'm preparing for it," I said. "It's the only language Janelle and Delilah seem to understand, logistics." He exhaled. "She's losing it. She said she feels like a guest in her own house." I stared at him, letting the irony settle like dust. Then I said, "Imagine that." He rubbed his eyes. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "I know," I said, voice quiet. "You just let it happen." Later that evening, after the technician left and the thermostat glowed a fresh blue with 2-user access set up, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I called my granddaughter.
Grace.
16, smart, soft-spoken. The only one who'd ever asked me quietly in the back seat once, "Why does Mom talk over you?" When she picked up, her voice was surprised, but not distant. "Grandma? I was wondering," I said, "if you had time next weekend for tea. Just us."
A pause. Then, "Yes. Please."
"Can we do the tea shop downtown? The one with the stained glass windows?" "Of course." She didn't ask why I was calling. She didn't ask what happened. She just wanted to see me. That was enough. That night, I returned to my notebook. Cohabitation shift, day 12. Thermostat replaced. Multi-user access enabled. Delilah rattled. Janelle cracked. Ryan observing. Legacy note. Initiate trust planning updates. The next morning, I walked into town.
Stopped by the bank.
Met with my financial advisor. And made one simple request. Begin drafting a living trust. 50% of my assets, including my 48% home stake, would go to Grace, held in trust until she turned 25. The other 50%? I earmarked for donation. Housing programs. Single mothers. Elder women who'd been pushed out by families who forgot who laid the foundation. I would not leave this house to be fought over when I was gone. It would be a fortress, one that spoke louder in my absence than I ever had when I whispered requests for fairness. I returned home at dusk. The house smelled like cinnamon. Someone, probably Ryan, had tried to bake peace into a sheet of cookies. I didn't eat one. Instead, I walked upstairs, opened the door to the master suite, and just stood there a while. No bags were packed. But I could tell Delilah had begun consolidating. The vanity had fewer bottles. The robe was gone from the hook. And her favorite chair, angled just so near the fireplace, was missing its throw pillow. Retreat had started. Quiet. Strategic. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. Instead, I reached into the nightstand drawer and pulled out the candle she'd once left on the coffee table. Peaceful Harvest. I placed it on the mantel, and I lit it. Because this time, the scent wasn't an insult. It was proof that I could reclaim what had been repurposed to belittle me, and make it my own. It was a Tuesday morning when Janelle folded. Not in words, not in apology, but in posture. She stood in the kitchen, shoulders slouched, jaw tight, hair pulled into a too-tight bun, as I walked in with a stack of paperwork from the trust attorney. She didn't greet me. She didn't ask what I was holding. She just stared at the folder like it might contain her own eviction notice. Ryan, seated at the kitchen table in yesterday's sweatshirt, cleared his throat.
"She wants to talk," he said.
Janelle turned to him. "I can talk for myself."
Then she looked at me.
Her face didn't hold rage anymore. It held something quieter, something smaller.
"Can we sit?" she asked.
I nodded and gestured toward the breakfast nook, the one Delilah always avoided because it didn't photograph well. We sat across from each other like co-defendants negotiating terms. Janelle clasped her hands. "I've been talking to a real estate advisor, just looking at options." I said nothing. Let the silence stretch. She blinked, swallowed, then continued. "If you really go through with this petition, it'll devalue the house. Not just for resale, but optics. No one wants to buy a fractured property. We'll both lose." I nodded once.
Correct.
That's the cost of defending boundaries no one thought I'd protect. Janelle leaned forward. So, what if I offer to buy you out? I didn't respond. She slid a sheet of paper across the table.
Typed.
No signature. Just a figure. $180,000. I didn't even blink.
No.
She stared. You haven't even countered. Because that's not an offer, I said. It's a dare. She looked down. It's what we can afford. No, I said again. It's what you think I'm worth. Janelle's voice cracked. You want to punish me? I folded my hands on the table. If I wanted to punish you, I'd rent out my portion to a rock band with no quiet hours. I'd install a goat pen on my side of a lawn. I'd take every insult you've wrapped in silk and hand-deliver it to the HOA with a copy of the deed. She blinked hard. I continued, softer now. But I don't want punishment. I want peace. And peace, Janelle, is not possible when you mistake my silence for surrender. She didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, quietly, what would make you leave? I met her eyes. Nothing. That's what you still don't understand. I'm not the one who needs to. Her face went still, because for the first time she believed it. I stood and gathered my papers. You have a week to submit a real offer.
Market value.
Certified funds. Or I file the partition paperwork. And you lose the luxury of pretending this house isn't already split. Janelle didn't follow me out. That afternoon, I met Grace at the tea shop. She wore a hoodie 2 sizes too big and smelled faintly of peppermint. She hugged me without asking and took my hand across the table like she'd done it 100 times before. I saw Mom's face when she got off the phone, she said. She looked small. I sipped my chamomile. Sometimes shrinking isn't punishment. It's calibration. Grace stirred her honey slowly. Did she ever say thank you? No, I said. Did you ever want her to? I paused. I used to. She tilted her head. And now? Now I want something better, I said. I want to stop giving people permission to forget what I've done for them. Grace smiled. You could have just moved in with me in a few years, you know. I smiled back. I wanted you to visit a house where I didn't disappear. We finished our tea quietly. Before we left, she pulled a folded piece of paper from her jacket pocket. I wrote this for a school project, she said. We were supposed to describe someone brave. I took it, didn't read it there, just placed it gently into my notebook next to the partition documents. That evening, I returned home to find Delilah's vanity gone from the master suite. No perfume, no silk scarves, no trace. She was moving out, not suddenly, not with slamming doors, just vanishing, inch by inch. I stood in the center of the room and took a long breath. Then I opened the window. Cool air swept in like a reward. As I closed the curtains, my phone buzzed. Gerald. Preliminary zoning approval confirmed. We're greenlit for partition if no counteroffer is accepted by next week. I typed back. Understood. Waiting for them to fold or fund. Then I poured a glass of wine.
Red.
Unapologetic. I walked into the living room, placed the glass down beside my estate binder, and opened a clean page in my notebook. Final week countdown, day 1. Lowball offer declined. Legal pathway cleared. Partition greenlit. Legacy protected. And underneath, in cursive, when silence is no longer survival, it becomes resistance. Then I closed the book, because it wasn't time for reflection anymore. It was time for final moves. The final offer arrived on a Thursday. Hand-delivered by Ryan in a plain envelope, no return address, no signatures on the outside. He found me in the sunroom, pruning a pot of lavender I had rescued from Delilah's old display. Mom, he said softly, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to call me that anymore. I looked up. He held the envelope toward me with both hands, like a peace offering made of paper.
They talked to the bank, he said.
This is the real one. I set down my shears and took it without a word. Inside, a cashier's check. Market value. Full payment for my 48% ownership, verified by Gerald's appraisal team.
Clean.
Official. No notes. No apologies. Just numbers. For a moment, I stared at it. Not because I was unsure, because I was surprised. They had finally learned, not remorse, but respect. The kind written in certified funds. Ryan sat down across from me. I know it doesn't fix anything, he said, but it's the best we can do. We'll buy your share. No lawyers. No zoning split. We just go back to normal. I tilted my head. What's normal, Ryan? He hesitated. I mean peace. I gave him a long, slow look. Not unkind. Just honest. You had peace, I said. You mistook it for control. He looked down. Then I added, gently, and I had silence. I mistook it for safety. We sat there, the house creaking softly around us like it was listening too. Then I said the words I'd already decided days ago. I'm not selling. Ryan looked up, startled. What? I'm not selling, I repeated. But I'm moving out. He blinked. Wait, you are? I've found a new place.
Quiet.
Coastal. Small, but enough. And this time, all mine. He looked confused. So you're giving it back? I smiled. No, I said. I'm keeping my name on the deed, but I'm granting you primary residence rights. You can live here, raise your kids here, pretend it's whole again. He frowned. Then why not sell? I leaned forward, my voice calm and clear. Because every time you open the drawer with the property papers, you'll see my name. Not to haunt you, just to remind you. Of what? He asked quietly. That I helped build something. That I stayed when you made space for everyone but me. That I left, not because I lost, but because I chose peace over proximity. He said nothing, but his eyes glistened. Not grief, not anger, gratitude. For once real. That afternoon, I packed the last of my things. Just 4 boxes and 2 suitcases. The couch? I left it. The throw blanket? I burned the tag and wrapped it around my shoulders. A reminder of what not to accept next time. The twins gave me hugs that clung longer than expected. Grace slipped me a small note card when no one was looking. It said, "Your roots are still here. But now your wings are, too." I held that one. I'd frame it. I didn't say goodbye to Delilah. She wasn't home. She'd started spending more time at her sister's in Napa anyway. The air there was more to her liking, she'd said. Less combative. I smiled at that. Let her be someone else's unresolved riddle. Janelle watched from the porch as the movers loaded my final suitcase.
She didn't speak.
Just crossed her arms and nodded once when I looked her way. I returned the nod. It was enough. I left the deed on the dining table with a sticky note that read, "Shared ownership. Silent witness. Keep the kitchen labeled. Love, M." At dusk, I arrived at my new place. 2 bedrooms. Ocean view. A screened-in porch with a rocking chair that didn't creak like betrayal. The walls were bare, but they already felt like mine. I unpacked 1 box. Books, framed photos, my notebook. Then I made tea. Sat on the porch. Watched the sun dissolve into the sea. The wind smelled like salt and something else. Freedom, maybe. My phone buzzed once. A message from Gerald. Partition filing canceled. Title remains joint. Congrats on closing your chapter with control and grace. Another message from Grace followed. Can I visit during spring break? I typed back. Only if you bring the good tea. Then I opened my notebook one last time. Final entry. I gave them equity. They gave me a couch. I gave them the law. They gave me resistance. I gave them silence. They gave me motive. I gave them every chance to see me. They looked away. So I left, not quietly, not loudly, but with everything they thought I'd lost. Because I didn't take the house back. I took myself back. They gave her a couch. She gave them a legal wake-up call and walked away with more than the deed. She walked away with herself. So if you felt that, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories that hit deep.